All right, what's up, everybody? We will be in the house Friday night, the zone, to see undefeated fighters Devin Haney, 22-0, 14 knockouts, and Zaur Abdullaev, 11-0, 7 knockouts. Um, I expect Haney to be in a good fight with Abdullaev. Abdullaev can fight a little bit. I've seen him uh, a little bit of him, and he, meaning Abdullaev, has good offensive technique, and he does some things defensively also, which could be a problem. Um, he likes to counter punch, especially with the counter left hook, which is a good one. So keep your eye on that this Friday. What Abdullaev does best is he tries to punch with opponents when he throws his left hook. Check out the first Nonito Donaire fight with my man Vic Darchinyan. That's so that would be Abdullaev starring as Donaire. What I don't like is he reaches to throw his right hand, and he often pushes his right hand instead of throwing it. And in this fight, I think Devin Haney will look for some counter opportunities. And this is a fight where you have two guys who don't have that one punch power. Haney has almost everything you want offensively, just not the power. And the Russian, he has 7 knockouts in 11 fights. He had a victory last year over Hank Lundy, who's seen better days. And I think it'll be a battle and a nice test for Devin Haney. They'll be fighting for the interim WBC World Lightweight title, whatever that means. All right, so let's talk lightweights. This isn't my favorite weight class, but there is a very interesting play going on. First things first, the man at lightweight is Vasiliy Lomachenko, and he took care of the business at hand, and he beat the very game Luke, don't call me Luther, Campbell. So Lomachenko's one win away from being undisputed at 135. One win in a weight class that's above where he really should be. He's taking on these bigger men who have major height and reach advantages on him. And, well, everyone has a reach advantage on Lomachenko. He wasn't blessed with a long wingspan. So, but if he becomes undisputed, this is a weight class that could be very interesting, unless one thing happens. And I'll get into that in a second. I kind of already hit on it. But it could be very interesting because then you have the old man at the top of the pyramid and nothing but young guns, except for a couple of guys like Richard Comey. But you'll have nothing but young guns chasing him, and he's at the top. So if he beats Comey, then, or Comey, take your pick, Then Teofimo Lopez gets a shot at Loma. Lopez is 22. Young gun, right? If Devin Haney wins his fight this Friday, he's already said how much he wants Lomachenko. Haney is 20 years old, another young gun. You now have Gervonta Davis, a guy who should have been at lightweight before. He's already somehow the number one contender for the WBA portion of the unified title. Davis is 24, another young gun. Then there's Robert Easter Jr., he's 28. You have Devin Haney, who, with a win, as we stated, becomes the WBC mandatory, who's only 20. Then you have Robin Garcia, who's fast rising. He's only 21. And then you have guys like Shakur Stevenson, who's ready to move up to 130 and will want a shot at Vasiliy should he move back to 130, as he said he might. You also have Jojo Diaz and Miguel Berchelt, who are 26 and 27 years old, respectively. Young guns. Shooting for the guy at the top. But back to 35. And then you have the rest of the pack, okay? Guys who, some are young, some are a little bit older, but you got Rances Barthelemy, Lee Selby, Jose Pedraza, Javier Fortuna. So Lomachenko has a lot to play with in both classes, no matter which way he decides to go, if he becomes undisputed at 35. So we'll see. Because he can become undisputed at 35 and then move down to chase greatness at 130 by challenging multiple champions there. See, there's none of that dodging, and he goes to different weight classes and goes right after the champions. And even another option is there for him. He could be biting off more than he can chew by doing this. Actually, there are two options. And he still may already be biting off too much at 135, but he could move up to 40 for mega fights against either Manny Pacquiao, which is being discussed, or Mikey Garcia. And if he can somehow beat either one of them, he could walk away from the sport as a legend. He already is in a way, but man. However, if he becomes undisputed at 135 and decides to stay at lightweight, then the young guns have to see him. And that's what makes it. And if you look at the pyramid on this, I have on the screen, I'm sorry for the Atari 2600 graphic, but you see it. He's at the top, and then you see some of the names at 135. I could have made another layer to illustrate the guys at 130, but we're talking it out here, so you get the point. I mean, that just if he just stayed at 35, that would be crazy. I mean, you want this BA belt? Come see me, young gun. You want the BC or the BF or the BO belt? You got to come see me to get it. So I hope the politics get pushed aside and this happens. Speaking in terms of big fights. But boxing, in terms of those big fights, boxing just ain't what it used to be. The politics. The one thing that will mess this up, which is going to happen, is if he has all the belts and all these young guys have to see him. See, he's one of the few people in boxing history that says, okay, I have to defend this IBF title within 90 days, so let me do that to keep it. Now I have to defend this WBA belt 120 days after that, and so on and so forth. I mean, he would be the type to do it. That's an honorable champion. But what is probably going to happen, because they'll enforce that instead of saying, well, hold on, let's just do these one at a time. But what so enforcing it and putting your foot down, like we're going to strip you even though you just fought 10 days ago if you don't fight for hours now, and so on, or pay this fee under the table to make us back off. More than likely what's going to happen is they're going to start with this diamond champion and this interim this and champion and recess that and all this garbage that goes on now. So, and I'm like, well, okay, now you made Saul Alvarez this franchise guy, and then you bumped the undeserving Jamal Charlo, who already didn't deserve that interim title, but then you just make him the full middleweight champion and make Alvarez this franchise champion. I mean, come on, man. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happened here, even if they don't give him what you call franchise status. All of that interim and diamond and whatever stuff, that will come about and mess boxing. Hey, I'm a world champion. Well, no, there's an undisputed guy you have to beat for the real belt. But you can call yourself a champion if you want. No, you're a belt holder, and you're really not even that. But anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. You guys, at least the people who listen to this channel, all 5 of you, you understand. Jarrett Hurd, he decided not to fight the rematch with Julian Williams, and at least not next, maybe not ever. And there have been mixed opinions on this. I've seen many fans and so-called journalists and boxing media take a serious turn on Jarrett Hurd. And I've heard it all too. I decided to scan some YouTube channels, which I don't do too much of. And I scanned a little on Twitter. And I was shocked at what I heard and read. I can't. Let me. A few examples. All right, the first one. Hurd is a coward. He knows what's going to happen again, and he won't fight Williams. Okay. First of all, nobody in their heart of hearts believes Jarrett Hurd is a coward. Hurd isn't a coward. You're talking about a guy who was building a resume second to only, let's say, a Saul Alvarez or a Manny Pacquiao or a Vasiliy Lomachenko. I mean, resumes that, all these guys have resumes that stand out for different reasons. Hurd fought Julian Williams, Erislandy Lara, Austin Trout, Tony Harrison. I mean, win or lose the rematch with Williams, he was still looking to add Jermell Charlo and possibly Jamal Charlo on his ledger. That's not a coward, man. The next one I heard, Hurd is scared of Vada. He took it the first time, but he's scared to take it now. All right, on this one, I'm not going to be too hard on anyone who said that, because You see what happened to Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia when they were VADA tested, right? And I'm not talking about that WBC clean boxing program crap. I mean random Olympic style testing. Months before and the day of the fight and after the fight. All that good stuff. And remember, just because people pass VADA test, it doesn't mean they are clean. However, this is the best testing we have at this time, and it's better than no testing at all. Asked Saul Alvarez. Asked Jarrell Miller. While I don't think Hurd would have a problem with VADA, I must say I'm not mad at people who are slightly suspicious. And we'll keep an eye on testing in the future to see what's what and who does what and who doesn't. And I'm talking about boxing as a whole. He's been a weight bully and talked all that A-side stuff against Charlo, but against Williams, there was no pushback. I mean, Williams fought Hurd close to his hometown, and he gave up that A-side and bully stuff and exposed him. Okay, yes, Williams beat him, but I think Hurd naturally wanted some get back. Okay, he's a fighter. One thing you know about Jarrett Hurd is he's a fighter. So I think his instincts were, I want to fight this guy again. So some of these things I heard. Here's the next one. As a matter of fact, I'll make this the last one. Let's see what weight Hurd comes in for his next fight. If it's at 154 or a catch weight below 160, it's a clear duck of Julian Williams. All right. Okay. While that may sound legitimate on paper, most of this stuff is nonsense. That sounds like something legitimate. If he fights at 154 or a catch weight below 160, then that means he clearly ducked Julian Williams. That sounds good on paper. But here's a thought. We've always said on this channel that Jarrett Hurd was tailor-made for Julian Williams. In at least 4 or 5 videos. I'm not going to go back and search and put them below. I don't know when I said it. Well, maybe whoever Hurd's new trainer is saw what we saw. Okay? Maybe the new trainer saw something. So here's a thought. Maybe the new trainers said, hey, I listened to the Fight Journal Boxing, and I believe he may be a bit tailor-made for Williams. So maybe the new trainer said, look, you put me in charge. Let me try to implement some defensive measures to help you a little bit. And if you fight in December, it doesn't allow me enough time to put them in against a guy like Williams, who has Hurd's number to a degree. How about that as a thought? And if so, it's a good move. And I'll tell you in a second why. But you already know why. So what does Hurd do at this point? Because he's in a catch-22. We have a very interesting dichotomy here. Does Hurd leave Premier to go earn with Hearn at 160 because he can't make 154? Or does he stay? He's in a pretty tough conundrum. Pretty tough. You stay at 154 and struggle to make weight no matter who you fight. You go to 160 and make weight a bit easier, but probably have your career shortened because these boys up at 160 can hit. Listen, and here's the reason why, if the new trainer is trying to implement a few defensive strategies, some moves in there that he needs to work on, here's why you don't fight Julian Williams in December. And a legitimate reason why. Okay, listen. Jarett Hurd's prime was always going to be short because of the amount of hits he takes. He'll take 2, 3, sometimes 4 punches to land 1 or 2 of his. Okay, that doesn't spell a long prime. And I have to let you in on something. I'm not sure if I said this in a video, but I was in the locker room area after Williams fought Hurd, and Jarrett Hurd's speech wasn't right, guys. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in my recap, but I fear this kid won't be right when it's all said and done unless he fixes something now. That's where the new trainer comes in. So maybe instead of all this coward and duck talk, view this as a move that could extend Hurd's career and possibly his life. He can't keep getting hit like he does. And if he has to move to 160, I'm telling you, he could be in more major danger with his current style. Because one punch from the heavy hitters up at 160, and, well, let's move on. So what do you do if you're Julian Williams now? If you make the fight with Erislandy Lara, you could be dancing with the devil. What I like to see, I like to see one thing happen for Julian, and that's defending his belts in Philadelphia. You know, Julian's always been the quiet guy who flies under the radar. And for as many casual types of fans who know Danny Garcia and even Tevin Farmer, many of them didn't know who Julian was prior to his fight with Hurd. That's real talk right there. I remember after Danny Garcia beat Samuel Vargas at Temple University up there in Philadelphia, the crowd was hanging outside, and Julian was kind of just walking through. He had his glasses on. He probably won't remember this, but just like when I was in Las Vegas, Alan Heyman kind of just was walking through the MGM, and nobody knew who he was, but me and my colleague did. We was like, yo, Tickle Heyman. He just walked past everybody. Nobody's paying him any attention. Walked past the makeshift ring at MGM, out the door, hopped into a limousine, and kept going. And I'm like, man, this is the guy that's kind of running things at the time, and it's like, damn, none of y'all, he just whisked past everybody. And that's probably the way he wanted it. Well, Julian, same way. After the Garcia fight, he's outside, it's a big crowd, and he just kind of was just a face in the crowd. And so I yelled his name, and he turned around. He kind of jumped and turned around like, and I said something along the lines of like, you're next. And he looked at me and said, that's right, and he shook my hand, and he kept going. And I'm like, at that time, I'm telling you, I know that made his day, because he was with a couple of buddies, and I'm like, yo, y'all don't know who this is right here? This kid can fight a little bit. So, anyway, now that he's made enough of a name locally and nationally to an extent to deserve as much as a key to the city, at the least, as a new champion from Philadelphia, born and raised, okay? Not a transplant like, let's say, a Joe Frazier or a Benny Briscoe, who were both born elsewhere. You know, Williams is Philadelphia born. And even if he was searching for an excuse to take a stay busy fight as a home title defense, he kind of has an excuse now, because the fight with Hurd is off. So it's like, get this kid a home title defense. A fight with either Lara or the winner of Harrison versus Charlo, those fight, a fight with them, those fights, they loom, okay? Those fights loom. But why not let the kid take a voluntary defense at home, then step to one of those guys in like February or March 2020? I don't know. Tony Harrison wanted to fight in Detroit after beating Jermell Charlo, but Charlo wanted the immediate rematch, and he enforced it. But Williams' situation is different. If he elects to go straight at Lara and loses, that would be kind of weird, because I wonder if Lara, or I wonder if Hurd would then call Lara out for a rematch in a situation like that. But my guess is Hurd's next fight won't be at 154, so it gives Williams the choice to jump straight to Lara or find an approved opponent as a softer touch title defense. Stay tuned. What else? I like Anthony Joshua's chances in a rematch. I mean, I like him big in a rematch if there are only a couple of things that bother me, and so I have to rewind some video, because I people look at eyes. I look more at body language and eyes and what people say, how they say it. But so there are a couple of things that bother me, but if I can get over them, I really like his chances. Like when Vladimir Klitschko fought Joshua, I expect lean muscle from AJ on the rematch. I just expect he's going to be cut. He's always going to be cut, but I think there's some lean muscle. If you look at the Klitschko who fought, let's say like a Sam Peter, and he's like just cut up, and there's not fat. And then you look at the Klitschko who fought AJ, it's like, man, lean muscle. If Joshua controls the fight and slows it down with his jab, ironically, I'm going to say this, Lennox Lewis style, I like his chances. I mean, it's odd that it's the Lennox Lewis style I suggest seeing, but because those two aren't exactly buddies, right? But I really, really like it's almost like your jab is not, your hands aren't up. It's kind of just like not down at your waist, but when Lewis was in control and he had the jab going, he could throw it from his waist. And it was like, I got you. And Joshua has that kind of jab. He has to launch it like Kovayev, like Golovkin. And he has to keep that stick out there, just keep popping. Joshua's problem, if you look at his career, when these guys are under 6'4", let's say, there's a problem. But he's fought like a real champion. Um, so much happened so soon, and in so many fights, or so few fights, I should say, that But he none of this ducking and so on and so forth. I mean, he fought legitimate competition. You look at some of these other weight classes where you have guys who are champions, but they're still learning. Jamal Charlo, Javante Davis, Anthony Joshua. But he rang the bell and he fought some serious guys out there. Dillian White, Vladimir, and he's still learning on the go. So we'll see. We'll see about that. All right, so let's take a very quick look at the final quarter of 2019. We got fights coming up with big names, even if they won't fight each other. That doesn't take away from their name. On the undercard, as a matter of fact, on the undercard of Devin Haney's fight with Abdullaev, you have a title fight. You got Heather Hardy, right? Undefeated, 22-0 versus Amanda Serrano, 36-1-1. There was some calling for that to be the main event by some, so that'll be interesting as you hear somebody outside who I think saw a mouse. I don't know if you can hear that scream out there. Also on the card Friday, you got Michael the Bounty Hunter versus Sergey Kuzmin. Michael Hunter 17-1, Sergey is 15-0. So that should be interesting. Hunter's always a wild card, so I like him. I really like him. So we'll see how that turns out. So if Haney wins, he becomes the number one guy for Lomachenko, right? Whenever it seems like we get a rush to a good matchup, whether it's Lomachenko Haney, Lomachenko Garcia, Lomachenko Lopez, something always happens in boxing. In this case, with a Haney win, I actually hope something happens. I don't hope he loses as the something that happens, but I hope something happens because I think he's better served if he waits a couple of more fights. I'm telling you that's going to be a matchup for the ages. What I hope, though, is that that they take their time, and we'll see, because I see a more competitive fight within the next year or so. What else? But right, I'll say something just always happens, man. If Team Haney gives it a ride until like late next year, like I said, or early 2021, I think if he waits it out, he has a legitimate shot against Vasiliy Lomachenko. Okay, Lomachenko will be pushing 33, and when you look at Haney's size and you give him a bit more maturity at this point for a 20-year-old, though, he's man. But I'm speaking ring maturity, but just in and outside the ring, the kid just has the goods. But still needs some polish. I think defensively, I see a few flaws, but we'll see. We'll see. I just like his style. I like it from a style matchup, win or lose for him. I like his style against just about everyone. If I'm a top guy at 135, I fight Devin now, because by the end of next year or the middle of 2021, I'm telling you, he will be the Duke at 135. And then eventually, I think he'll have to move up because these guys are big at the weight. Saturday we got Tyson Fury fighting his tune-up in anticipation of a rematch in February with Deontay Wilder. Next Friday, the following Friday, the 20th, is a nice triple header, Showtime Showbox. And this is Showtime going back to its roots, hopefully. You got Michael Dutchover, who people are making a lot of noise about, 13-0, versus Thomas Matisse, 14-1-1. You got Brandon Lee, the hard-hitting Brandon Lee. That's a prospect you need to take a look at. 15-0. He's fighting a guy who's 10-1-1. And I forgot who the third fighter was, the third fight. But Brandon Lee, people are very high on him. So make sure you check him out on Showtime next Friday. And then next Saturday, this isn't a fight most people will talk about. I don't think it has any television, but Chaz Witherspoon, okay? That's Tim Witherspoon's nephew. Fights Curtis Harper, okay? And Chaz wants one more shot. He's 38-3. One more title shot. But his opponent, Curtis Harper, who's part of the reason I got a copyright strike, which I probably should have just fought it, but it'll expire. It expires probably in like 30 days or something. Curtis Harper is the guy who fought what's my man's name? Ife Gabu or whatever his name, the cut up guy, and as soon as the bell rang for the first round, he turned around and walked out of the ring and kept walking. So, if you look it up, you'll see Curtis Harper. Now, if I can remember, I'll put it down, even though I got a copyright strike from Heyman Boxing, which I don't agree with. I'll leave it down below if I remember. If not, it's just, if you haven't seen it, you not a big boxing fan, but check that out. It was hilarious. I mean, it made ESPN. I mean, it was funny. And then the following Saturday, the 28th of September, Errol Spence Jr. versus Sean Porter. And that's a unification, right? WBC and IBF World Welterweight title. Also on that card, Anthony Durrell versus David Benavidez, which we'll see. And I'm sure a nice scrap. Josecito Lopez versus John Molina Jr. That should be a good one. Just like we believed on this channel that Jarrett Hurd was tailor-made for Julian Williams, Sean Porter is tailor-made for Errol Spence Jr. However, I think Sean Porter's going to show up. I think Sean Porter's coming to party. And if Spence Jr. knocks him out, then I'm suspicious. And you know why I'm suspicious. And if you don't know why, just keep searching until you find the video. I'm not going over it again. I think now, because of Porter's style and because of Spence's style, I can see Porter getting dropped maybe a couple of times, but I believe it to be a distance fight, and I believe it to be one of those close but unanimous type decision. But Porter has to be Porter, and then he has to be the Porter who fought uh, Ugas, but with the jab. He has to mix it up. And if he mixes it up properly, I'm telling you, he's coming to party. Other fights we have that have not necessarily been announced, where you have the Wilder Ortiz or Ortez rematch. Terrence Crawford, I think, makes an appearance in October in New York. You got Saul Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev, which that's a good fight. That's a good fight. I like the Kovalev jab. I really do in that fight. You got the rematch, Tony Harrison, Jermell Charlo. I'm telling you, if that fight would have just been on the up and up and took place when it was supposed to, and Harrison trained, yeah, man, I'm telling you, I would have picked Harrison big in that second fight. But Tony Harrison is going on like this victory tour, and it's been like 10 or 12 laps. And it's just this, it hasn't been a victory lap. It's been a victory 10 or 12 laps. And so when I saw that, because his Facebook page, oh my gosh, if you could scroll down his timeline to after he won and then saw everything he was doing, he was right for pulling out of the fight. But if I'm telling you, if he, and it allowed Jermell to get a fight in between. So now we'll see. But man, so so I'm tipping my hat there. I was going to pick Harrison big in the rematch. Now, I don't know. But that's coming up, possibly in December, and possibly on a big card. Well, I think what they were trying to do was put that together with Williams and Hurd's rematch, which would have been crazy. Anyway, we got Shakur Stevenson, Daniel Dubois in a couple weeks against another undefeated opponent. We got Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Derevyanchenko. That's in October, right? Very dangerous fight for Golovkin, by the way. I think I talked about it in... Did I talk about that in the last video? Anyway. Oh, no. You know what? I didn't. I didn't. And... boy. So that one right there is... What I did was there's this guy from Kazakhstan or from, he's somewhere. He's got Russian blood. And he would always ask me about Golovkin. And that's who I talked to. Let me see if I can find what I told him real quick. Oh, man. Oh, Golovkin. Oh, boy. Where is that? Well, anyway, this guy, is this it right here? Let me look. Nah, I must have, oh, man. I gave him a breakdown. So what I'll do is, before Golovkin fights again, I'll talk in a video about what I said to him. You got, Alexander Usyk fighting a guy named Sprong, Sprong. If you don't know who he is, just look him up. He had a vicious knockout. So he did his job right before taking on Usyk, because now people will watch and to see if he can do the same thing. Oh man, vicious knockout. Earth to Leo Santa Cruz, come in. We also got Dmitry Bivol fighting in October, and the much anticipated Alexander Vozdik, Artur Beterbiev, or Beterbiev, take your pick. that fights in Philadelphia in October. Can't wait for that one. All right, that's it. We'll be there, Madison Square Garden, this Friday to check out Devin Haney, Zaur Abdullaev. The winner gets that interim belt, which is for the rights to face Vasiliy Lomachenko if he decides to go that route or whatever. All right, catch you guys later.